Was there a part of you that was like, this isn't real, this would not happen in my school?
No, there wasn't.
Why so?
It's been happening everywhere. I've always kind of felt like eventually it was going to happen here too.
You know, hearts are heavy here. It's the end of the school year. A lot of these students preparing for graduation. There's a ceremony tomorrow, and instead, Jake, some of these families now preparing for funerals. Jake.
Rosa Flores, the tragic scene at Santa Fe High School, about 30 miles south of Houston. Let me bring in Juliette Kayyem, the former Assistant Secretary at the Department of Homeland Security during the Obama administration. And Rosa, I can't think of a harsher indictment of how the leaders of this country are failing to protect children while they go to their schools than what that little girl just said, saying that she's actually not surprised that there was a school shooting at her school because they happen all over the place, and she figured sooner or later it would happen at Santa Fe High School.
That's exactly right, and teenagers, because of social media, are absorbing this in ways that we often do not. We can sort of put a distinction between something far away and something close by. And she's not wrong. I mean, if you look at the statistics, the Washington Post just reported that in 2018, a student is more likely to die in a school shooting than a service member is likely to die in the wars abroad. That's an indictment of all of us. And so this is a unique case, though. There's a couple factors that are just, we still have to get our heads around. I mean, the first is, of course, this was a school that had done everything right. It had armed officials on the campus. It had done active shooter trainings. It had every protocol seemed to work right. So this idea that if we just train people enough, this is going to be okay, it's just not true. On the other hand, these are weapons that are not the ones that we often talk about as in terms of gun control. They're not average weapons, but these are not high density weapons. And so this is not sort of falling uniquely or distinctly into the gun debate that we often have in these discussions. And then the third factor is, of course, the IEDs. I often think that one of the problems is that because we become acclimated to school shootings, we're seeing with these assailants something that we saw similar in terrorism, that they just have to keep upping the ante just for people to pay attention. And I think had this assailant been successful, what he wanted to do was obviously kill a lot of people, explode a lot of things, thereby killing a lot of people. And we have to be very cautious that, that there's this ratcheting up through the copycats as we see more and more of these school shooting cases.
Yeah, and you mentioned the issue of how the suspected shooter is thought to have been able to get firearms, and it's true that very few of the laws, if any, that I've heard proposed in the last 5 years after any one of these mass shootings would have any effect on this. Apparently, according to law enforcement officials, based on the best information they have now, he used a shotgun and he used a .38, so none of the AR-15 style weapons that are debated and discussed a lot.
Exactly.
And he didn't buy them. He didn't get them through the gun show loophole or online. He just took his father's guns. And then as you heard, the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, a big supporter of gun rights, telling parents, what can you do? You can lock up your guns so nobody can get them, especially your children.
That's exactly right. And I, at least in this regard, I applaud Lieutenant Governor. He did mention a lot about entrances and exits, which I don't think makes a lot of sense for a big high school, given what we know about them. But on the gun issue, those who own guns have a responsibility, if they want to I don't want to say win the debate, but in other words, they have their own responsibility. This idea that they have no responsibility as gun owners is ridiculous. If you are a parent and you let your child have access, or you don't have your guns under gun locks, that is bad parenting, and it is also should make you liable, in my personal opinion, for criminal indictments, depending on what they are. If you are negligent and you hand a kid a gun, right, and that kid does something, I don't understand as a parent how you are not responsible for that. If people who want to own guns have children, we need to get tougher on the laws and tougher on enforcement in terms of lock boxes and other obligations on parents, because what is happening now is kids who may do really bad things that the parents don't know about are using the parents' sort of adulthood status, right, their ability to get guns, to kill lots of people very, very quickly. So if I sound a little bit that, like, you know, parents, get your heads on straight. It is because those who want to protect gun ownership have a responsibility to those children in that high school today.
Hey guys, it's Greg. Had another one, right? The thing that I find ridiculous is that every video that I've seen on this is from some major mainstream news organization. You see, you and I are not allowed to discuss this, but YouTube, it's okay for them to put their spin on it. We can't discuss it without getting censored or strikes or what have you. I mean, they said that they weren't going to allow any videos that had any type of discussion in regard to this. But as you saw in the clip earlier, the lady is a freaking moron. All of a sudden now parents are responsible for any killing that their children do. You're negligible if some idiot kid uses your firearm to kill someone else. So if you don't lock that up, which, what good is a locked up gun? If you don't lock it up, you're responsible. Okay? Well, there were pressure cookers found on the scene. Do we have to lock up our pressure cookers too? Are we going to have to lock up our screwdrivers, our steak knives? That is bullshit. This is not, she said, this is not, this is a unique situation. This school has been trained in this. So what they're saying is, no matter what precautions you take, you can't do anything about it. In other words, let's just take everybody's guns. The only way to solve this problem is to take everybody's guns. Do you honestly think that's going to do anything? You know, I'm talking about this as if this really happened. I don't know. I can't say if it really happened. I'm not there. I know that we've had fake ones. But pipe bombs, pressure cookers, and then the pistols, you know, we're not talking about high capacity magazine. We're not talking about the ARs is what they're saying. Now we're going to drop the discussion down to other weapons. This is just bullshit. The whole thing is bullshit. Not whether it happened or not. I don't know. Whether it's real or whether it's not, what happens afterwards is real. We have to deal with the ramifications of what happens afterwards. Now, it doesn't matter. We can't call out whether it's fake or whether it's not. you know, what difference does it make? Because everybody else believes in it, and they're going to start legislation pretty soon before this is over with. I mean, Jake Tapper is saying that a student is more likely to be killed in a school shooting than a service member is in the war. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's a talking point. That's a sound bite. It's bullshit is what it is. But now they're trying to make parents responsible for these screwed up kids going in and doing whatever they do. If you don't lock your guns up, what the hell good is a locked up gun? It's the same thing as what is good an unloaded gun. What the hell good is that for? Why even have one? So now we're going to start dropping down. We're going to start working on handguns. And we're going to start making parents responsible. At what age does this responsibility drop off? I mean, I've seen kids that, you know, 14 years old being tried as adults. So what age does this end? This responsibility. And look, I'm not saying that there's not parents that aren't. Most likely they are. A lot of parents out there that are neglectful and don't give a shit what their kids do. I'm sure they care whether they do this, but they don't care anything else. And let's be honest, kids today, they don't go to school for the reason to go to school to learn anything. That's their social gathering place. That's what they go to school for. Look, even the worst person that I went to high school with wouldn't do anything like this. Even given the chance, they wouldn't do this. So, where do these kids learn this shit? At school. Everything that kids learn, social and pop culture, and that shit doesn't come from the parents. That comes from the schools. Alright. I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents on this. Also, I want to tell you, be careful about sending in your DNA to Ancestry.com, because the Golden State Killer, which, you know, if he's guilty, he should have been caught. But they caught him through, and it wasn't him directly, it was someone else. It was like a cousin that sent in their match, or sent in their DNA, and it had a close match to the DNA for this Golden State Killer. So they narrowed it down and they found him. What I'm saying is, be careful about sending in your DNA. Not saying you've done something wrong, but what I'm saying is, if they decide to frame you for anything, and I say that as if You know, like, why in the hell would they care to frame me or you? Well, they might eventually. If they need something on you, they've got your DNA. We know they'd lie. So just be careful and consider that. Consider the fact that it's just like with Facebook, they're data mining, and Google. Well, why wouldn't they take and data mine everyone's DNA that sends it in? Put it on record. So these things is something to think about. Alright, guys. I wish I could talk more about that, but it doesn't matter. You and I can't talk about this. Only the mainstream media outlets can put their videos on YouTube discussing this, which means they can put their spin on it. You and I know that it's bullshit what they say, the way they spin it. But the problem is there's way too many people out here that believe that shit, and they agree with it. Alright, guys, have a good one. Please be good to everyone else. Take care, guys.